Hello, Taurus. That's you. This is Tarot Illumination, and this is your July 2017 general report. So, uh, look at this. Oh no! Oh no! Anyway, that's just background, okay? That's my homework. That's what I do. So, for everybody, including you, Taurus, there's this big cardinal grand, like T-square thing going on. It's almost a grand cross, too. It's the same thing that's been grinding away for months. It's still here. Uh, it's the Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, Aries energy, like being stretched and pulled in all these directions simultaneously. Oh my God, what am I going to do? So for you, Taurus, like with Pluto and Capricorn in the third and ninth. We're looking at third and ninth house. We're looking at like your day-to-day communications and friends and family and just people, siblings, and just day-to-day communications in life being contrasted by higher consciousness. Uh, big shifts, huge shifts in higher consciousness, irreversible, and coming to understanding in that regard, and then bringing that down into like a communicable, comprehensive way that works for day to day. So you're not left like stunned and like wandering around like you got hit by a brick trying to figure it all out, and being able to communicate that day to day. And simultaneously, that's happening in the context of relationship, significant relationship, whatever way you cut it. And so opposing that on the diagonal, we have like the Libra Aries dynamic, where again, in the context of significant relationship, you get to experience like, well, what about me versus the other regarding my health and well-being in the day-to-day sense. Libra over in the sixth house, Jupiter, and then you got the Aries, over in your 12th house with Uranus. How to be your unique self in terms of like your spirituality, your divinity, your perceptions of universal love, but also how you don't, or how you can get like lost and obscured in healthy relationship. If you're not careful, if you succumb to the energy of the 12th house of illusion, deception, betrayal, lies, deceit, self-undoing, especially in very subtle, almost indecipherable ways. There's more going on. At the big full moon, it's really going to become amplified about what I was talking about earlier about expanded consciousness, global perspective, but bringing it down into day to day so that it works for you. And at the end of the month, we got like big Leo energy. So that's going to be over in your fourth house of home and family, your foundations, your sense of security and safety. And with Mars there, Mercury, Sun, and the moon, new moon, is going to be a lot of perhaps a feeling of like a big shake-up in the home, some way or other, new beginnings, new starts, some way, somehow. Hopefully in delightful, bright, new, inspiring ways. We'll see. Anyway, let's just get on with it. This is Tarot, okay? So here we go. Let's see what happens. Well shuffled, as you can tell. And it was pre-shuffled. There's no reversals. There's no jumpers, no flyers. None of that. All cards are just, it's just raw, stripped down, bare bone tarot. Here's the general vibe. Here's where you're coming from. Here's the perpetual, ever-present now. Here's where you're heading. Here's how to move forward comfortably and wisely. Here's what you might be attracting to you in terms of your environment or energies, either because you're aware of that and how you create your own reality, or it might just feel it's just arriving there like through fate. Either way, it's there. And here's like your hope and fear of like, oh my God, now that I'm actually moving through the month, what I'm really hoping for, what I'm actually scared of, and where does it all sort of seem to be heading. Okay, in the background we have a little bit of supportive weather, which is very nice. I like to think of it as just background weather, like the weather that's outside your front door. You make the best of it, whatever it is. Okay, and for you, you have the strength card. So throughout July, it might be like this. The like the general weather is supporting you in coming into like you're coming into your strength, coming into your power, so to speak, but in ways that you hadn't particularly planned or expected, but it's going to happen anyway, where you realize you become aware of the potential here in this month for tapping into uh, like this dynamic polarity between your raw ego animal self the part of you that wants to satisfy you for your own purposes and gain, as opposed to the part of you that wants to be here on this planet for a reason and a mission and a purpose, a higher vibration frequency version of yourself, which is very loving and caring and compassionate, um, in comparison to the raw ego self, which is more go, 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 get, have. And bringing that all into alignment where spirit dominates, where the, like, let's say the lower ego self becomes a servant of the higher self. So this is a good month for that to happen for you. The weather is supportive. So what's the general vibe? Yeah, whoa. So Taurus, okay, you might have either determined or realized that, oh my God, I'm coming into my power. Or like, yes, I have decided I'm coming into my own power. I am going to make my own life happen the way it's supposed to happen according to my will. But that's done on the understanding that my will is subject to the higher will of heaven, as opposed to the will of the self. So that's very cool. Well done, Taurus. If this just seems to be happening anyway, then bravo. Maybe you're just unwittingly um, uh, just naturally good at creating your own reality and manifesting your reality. You have everything that you need at your at your disposal. Uh, every element working for you: cups, swords, discs, wands, all adding up to be one magic like fire stick. Okay, and the magician can be a little bit mischievous because it is just raw power. And the question is, how are you going to use that power? Da, 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 da. Personal gain or for the gain of the better good? Like tuning into the real Taurus. Who am I here? Why am I here? What am I doing here? Either way, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make it happen for real. Okay, so that's good. You've got some very, very strong supportive energy for you here in July. It's very complementary. Just happens to be that way astrologically anyway, because Cancer energy tends to be very, very supportive and compatible with Taurus energy. So coming into the month, what have we got? Look at this. Knowing that deep down, somewhere deep down, you have exactly what you need, and that you do carry like the raw ingredients of what it takes to evolve to this highest level of strength in the self, to be like your true self, where you're not like just exploiting your own resources and conditions and circumstances just because they're there and it's convenient, but actually seeing that there's a higher purpose, a higher reason, a higher mission, and way of being for you coming up that you may have never known existed before, because it looks like you naturally carry this energy anyway. This is very loving, like almost like Taurus type energy anyway. This is almost like Earth Mother energy. This is the Queen of Pentacles, who is just naturally, well, she's worked for it to be here in this position, perhaps over many lifetimes, to be in this position where she is a very natural custodian of all this wealth and abundance and natural resource in a very loving, generous, kind of way, where she understands that she has a tremendous amount to offer to this world. And it's almost like she has a duty and obligation to share this with the world. And she knows that in her sharing and her giving, she receives even more. It's an amazing phenomenon, but as you give, so shall you receive. The more love you give, the more love you receive. And the Queen of Pentacles is almost like pre-programmed to do that and be that. It's just that this might be a new format for you, because coming into this month, it might be that you carried this energy anyway by nature, but now you're starting to see a bigger, grander picture where, like, oh, I'm seeing how it all starts to fit in with the world, where I fit in with the world, and how I can play a part in the world in a more fulfilling way, uh, where I can stretch open and tap into my resources, all my gifts, and share them and manifest properly, uh, loving myself first, but for a reason, okay? For a really, really important reason, on the understanding where you become a servant to the will of heaven. Let's put it that way. And so, what about the ever present now? What have we got? See? And it's being affirmed somehow or other by stepping forward, and even if it's in tiny little steps, making the decision that you are going to manifest a new future incrementally, tapping into your own natural, very tangible resources, but in a way that is now for the will of heaven, for the good of others. It's being affirmed. In other words, as you move forward, you can feel it in the present moment that you do have this and it is going to work out, and that it's almost a simultaneous experience, that as you uh, deliberately manifest your own evolution incrementally, even like little steps at a time, it actually feeds you in such a way that, yeah, you can have this like inner sensation, this profound, um, calm kind of awakening sensation that, wow, this is actually beneficial to me personally. So in other words, by deliberately sublimating yourself to the will of heaven, so to speak, thinking you might be just giving yourself and your soul away for a higher mission and purpose in a way that's very selfless, that has nothing to do with you anymore. It's not actually true. What actually happens, you benefit personally. You can actually benefit where you can start to feel more and more independently secure in who you are and why you're here and what you're doing here. Uh, it's almost like it's an energy that feeds on itself. The abundance that you have to share uh, creates more abundance. That gives you more abundance, which creates a higher sense and awareness of autonomy, being like being your own boss, so to speak. Like the more and more you tune into yourself and your own abundance and your generosity and bringing it here onto earth for a reason and a purpose, the more the process feeds on itself. Okay, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to see and show how this deliberate, willful decision to manifest the good in yourself triggers this, which acts as fuel to trigger more of this. Okay, so that's how I'm feeling it right now. Moving forward in the month, now that we're like building up some momentum, realizing this is a journey. By the way, I try to read these cards as a journey, like going this way through the month, and I try to read from the heart. So it's supposed to look like this. Okay, it's kind of, I'm forcing it a little bit, but if you like, go with me. There is a heart shape there. It's a little one, but it is there. And so moving forward, we're facing into the unknown. We don't actually know what's going to happen. We're just like, we're trusting here. So in that regard, moving forward, it's like, it's almost like coming to an agreement with yourself deep inside. I am over it. I am completely over and done with these internal battles of futility with myself, wrestling and fighting, trying to think my way through things in such a way that I'm convincing myself that I have the answers. only to discover all I'm doing is fighting myself over and over, over and over and over and over again. And that becomes kind of like, oh dear, everything seems to have frozen. Hold on. Maybe it will unfreeze. Let's have a look. No. Yes. Yay. Wow, that was scary. I'm sorry. Did you see that? That was freaky. Anyway, moving forward into the month, there's an awareness that you could be facing a part of yourself which needs to be faced, where it's on the understanding that, uh, like, coming into the month, let's say you've got this awareness, we're going to make this happen. We're going to self manifest here. We're going to take advantage of the prevailing weather that seems to inspire you to want to uh, rise up to the will of heaven, where you bring your ego in service to the will of heaven, so to speak. And in so doing, you move forward realizing, oh my God, that means I'm going to have to confront myself and my own inner sources of self undoing. The battles that I have with myself that lead to nowhere. It's just internal conflict, internal chatter that we use inside of ourselves to justify why things are the way they are, and how it's okay to be the way they are when in fact they're not. It's not okay for them to be the way they are. In other words, we actually have to, moving forward, it's the realization of um, how we create our own internal conflicts that can't be resolved just through intellectual uh, rationalization. We have to actually uh, go above and beyond that some way, somehow, because this behavior doesn't really help anybody. It just keeps you trapped in the, like in an evolutionary like loop, okay, where you just find very, very elaborate ways to avoid having to evolve, because having to evolve means having to sublimate the self to a higher self, which can be, a little bit of a challenge. You might not want to do it. Taurus, you tend to be very fixed in your ways, and once things are established in a certain way, it's very hard for you to let go and allow things to flow and evolve in a way that evolution is indicating. And so, in order to resist evolution, we create these internal, uh, like, reasonings for why it's okay to stay where we are. And so, which is, of course, an obsolete, redundant, self defeating type of behavior, which we don't need. So, moving forward, how are we going to get through the month okay with that understanding? Okay, you might have to face some issues of, let's just call it what it is. It looks like a broken heart, looks like aches and pains in the heart that have to be dealt with and faced. This is not a love reading, by the way. This is just general energy. So the feeling here of being, it's like wrestling with yourself, okay? Like how you could almost be the source of your own aches and pains, especially in heartache. Like if you're not being true to yourself, if you're not being true to your heart, then your heart can really ache. Now, what that means in your day-to-day life is your business. But if whatever happens, it's occurring in such a way that, and let's say, coming into your true self, manifesting your true self, being determined to do that, taking advantage of the weather and the circumstances, knowing you have everything that you need in order to evolve, all the resources to bring forward into a new life, and understanding already that it's a self-feeding process. The more you tune into that self-love and self-thing, the more the resources come to you, and the more loving you can be, the more generous you can be to yourself and to others, and including creating a sense of total self-mastery and independence of the self. And yet, moving forward, in order to actually make that happen, for the manifestation to occur, it means having to face how you could be the source of your own aching, breaking heart, so to speak. Even if it feels like the aching and breaking is coming to you from someone else or somewhere else, or that you might have to lose someone else, or you might be losing someone else, or someone else might be losing you as you grow and evolve to a new higher version of yourself. Yes, that could be very, very painful, but it might actually effectively be the best thing you can do to face into this energy, which might have been suppressed and buried for a long time. In other words, like rationalizing ways to stay where you are, um, which means staying where you are means being able to avoid this. Whereas evolving means having to give up uh, inner futile conflicts, which might have been masked in some way by like supreme logic masking as truth, supreme like self-rationalization masking as truth, which basically just is covering up what is in some way deeply buried, some kind of deeply painful issue that needs to be faced. Okay, so moving forward in a healthy manner, Taurus, as painful as this looks, the best thing to do is allow this energy to come to the surface. If there is a deep reality, a deep truth that is being exposed, that at some deep core level you are very, very heartbroken and sad about a situation that is broken, fundamentally broken, where it might be just living like through um, rationalizing its continued existence, so to speak, then it might be healthy and wise to accept that this is no longer tenable and you can't live and carry this energy all day, every day. It's not acceptable. It's not healthy for you or anybody around you. It's ultimately self-defeating. And you're now coming to that realization that this has to be faced. So that's good. It's really, really good to face these matters face on, so to speak, so that they don't eat away and leave you heartbroken on a very uh, grinding, continuous, long-term basis, which can be very numbing. Okay, so what does that bring into your environment, so to speak, or how does that, like, let's say you're very aware, let's say you're really, really aware of how you create your own destiny, and you are going to tap into that properly this month for real, as opposed to knowing it as a theory. Instead of like letting fate come to you, you realize that, oh my God, I actually have a chance to really manifest my own destiny. What does it start to attract to you by going through these very difficult issues that need to be faced and resolved? Okay, it brings and initiates new hope. It brings in the people who really, really do love you, who want to share there and be with you, which allows you to, like, let's say, break this breaking heart pattern, this system of long-term justification of living and uh, uh, living with a broken heart on a long-term basis, where it just becomes uh, normal, and now realizing that's not normal, that's not acceptable. um, the healthy, loving thing to do is face it and deal with it, and in so doing, as we face it and as we deal with it, we open new doors, new hope, new new opportunity, new inspiration, new awareness that there is a whole new life ahead, and it may not be all of there right now, right, happening right now, but you're very aware that you're tapping into the behaviors and energies that are required for this to happen, for this new hope, this new life, this new journey to unfold, where not only are you an inspiration now to yourself, having dealt with these issues over here and here, and then becoming an inspiration to others, which is really, really what this all becomes about. Okay, where when you really tune into your higher self, so to speak, and you allow the raw ego animal part side of yourself to surrender to the higher self, like higher calling, higher being, spirit, your spiritual mission and purpose for being here, knowing that you have so much to offer in this new version of yourself, you can be that guiding light, that hope to others. Okay, it's really, really beautiful. Okay, so in some way or other, form or other people are going to be inspired by you, Taurus, as you evolve and grow and come out of July towards the end of the month. And going back to here again, moving into the month, going forward, making these facing these very challenging energies here. Obviously, it invokes fear. Can I handle it? Can I face this? And also the hope that I can face this. And how does that work out? So some people even call this the Taurus card. So it's actually it's almost like you're hoping that you've made the right decisions, you're manifesting in the right way, and you're deeply, deeply trusting in spirit and knowing that by facing these issues, as painful as it might be, going deep into the self, understanding here, like with that, I'll just show you, okay? All right. We're tapping into this energy over here, the Uranus and Aries in the 12th house, coming into these stark revelations about how you yourself, the self part of you, your Aries self, um, has been a source of self-undoing, especially in the dynamic of significant relationships. And it's about time to address these matters, because that's how you're going to come into your true self. This is almost like the perfect version of you, Taurus, male or female. This isn't a love read or anything. This is just general energy for July, okay? So moving forward, once you make the courageous decision to face yourself in this way and understand how you can, uh, by your own, how you can be your own worst enemy, so to speak, and coming out of it the other side by facing it and facing and dealing with this issue face on, invoking whatever needs to happen for healings to occur, and then in so doing, realizing that you are on the right path, that you are making the right decisions, then you're hoping, let's just keep it simple, move on, you're hoping that this is what you get, which is 100% authentic Taurus, un, uh, you know, pure, undiluted Taurus energy, uh, the beauty, the abundance, the femininity. Even if you're a guy, okay, your feminine side, the feminine part of yourself being fully manifested. That's the energy of compassion and loving and caring. It would be like the energy of a good guy who's really there for himself, takes care of himself, and is very loving and compassionate and comparing uh, towards others. So Taurus, this would be you hoping for this kind of energy to start to appear for yourself later in the month, where you really, really come into your true being and realize it, that part of it isn't just by like manifesting, I'm going to become my own true awesome self, because I know it's there. I know it, I know it, I know it. But facing, it's almost like the way to do it isn't just by like to power manifest. Oh, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna make it happen. No, it's more about like the way to make it happen is to understand I am all that already, except that I have been the cause of my own self undoing for so long, and it's not appropriate anymore. I'm going to give up that internal battle, and we're going to release this and let it go and stop the futility and move on, okay? Which is going to allow you to blossom. It's almost like pretend there's no other card in the reading, and like it's just Tarot Illumination is saying, hello, hello, Taurus. It's going to be a great month. You're going to become Taurus. Okay, bye. Thank you. That's your 30-second reading. Bye. So that's kind of what you're hoping for. And of course, the fear is like, what if I don't do it? And that would be a result of not being willing to give up the internal conflicts, the beautifully elaborate mental shenanigans that we go through and create for ourselves to justify being able to live with this. And of course, this is ultimately self-defeating. It's like you're stabbing yourself in the heart unnecessarily when you could have all of this. So it's by removing obstacles that you actually manifest into yourself. It's not by just directly manifesting yourself into yourself. You manifest by removing the obstacles to becoming yourself. Okay? So where does that lead you? Okay, if it leads to a feeling like, oh my God, I've lost things that I really, really valued, and I'm being left out in the cold, and I hope that I'm making the right decision, that's understandable because it is a process, it is a journey. There's nothing locked in by law here. And so let's just say that you've made this decision that you are going to come into your own, so to speak. You're going to, let's say, surrender the self to the higher self for a higher purpose as yet to be defined, whatever that might be for you in your life, dear Taurus, and hoping that you realize and come to this state of full 100% glorious Taurus. It might leave you feeling at the end of the month that having had to go through this extremely painful, like exorcism, so to speak, um, it could leave you feeling like cut out, like you've had to cut yourself out and put yourself out on the street, so to speak, temporarily in order to come to this full sense of the self. But this is probably more like a perception thing where, if you've been living with, let's say, a false state of comfort, convincing yourself that everything's okay when deep down you know you have to move through this energy of broken heart and betrayal, self-betrayal, and so on. And um, like in the healing process, let's just say this gets all removed and sorted out, at least in little bits and pieces. You might not be able to do all of this. I mean, it's a huge task to deal with all of this in 1 month. It might imply that in order to maintain this status of being your ultimate, most awesome, loving, generous, kind, beautiful self, you're going to have to endure ongoing periods where you might feel as though you're being left like with the residue of broken heart energy. In other words, having left behind what you thought was like a true love situation, only to discover that it was more of like a self. Um, it was damaged. There was damage there. It can mean that you're carrying wounds into the future. You know, for a while longer as the healing process occurs, where like it's almost inevitable, like when you're shedding, let's say you're removing obstacles to your own evolution. Like the obstacles that you're removing to your own evolution and happiness might have been things that you loved very, very dearly, so much, because you fell in love with them as a way of having to avoid your evolution. But the reality is you have to let these things go, uh, give up the internal, like, self-justification battles, so to speak, the futile battles. And that leaves you feeling like maybe a little bit empty, uh, left out, because you're saying goodbye to things that you really, really love, even though they were in some ways possibly not all good for you. So it's understandable that you could have a bit of this, but don't beat yourself up over it, okay? It's okay to move through life. You will overcome this. Don't worry. This is just one reading for 1 month, and it's just like a general atmosphere. So as you come out of the end of the month, it's just like it's almost like saying, God, I really loved how things used to be. I wish the way things used to be was actually the real deal, because in so many ways I really loved the way things were. But if I'm honest with myself, the way forward is to manifest a whole new life here, and knowing that it can happen and I deserve it. And from getting into that place, moving into it, hoping to get there and be there, you actually arrive there, okay? And maybe it means, like, it's just sad. It's just a little bit sad here of having to, it's like, yeah, it's awful, like letting go. It's like, you know how we love our pain? Sometimes we identify so much with our pain that that becomes our life and our world. And then when we have to say goodbye to that, it's like saying goodbye to a beautiful old piece of furniture that you really, really love, even though it's broken. Okay? It's that kind of sadness. That's what I'm talking about here. But don't worry. Don't you worry, okay? You're coming in with the right energy and you're hoping for this and you're going to get this. You might just have to be dealing with a little bit of residual um, feeling of lack in the way that I just described about the furniture type of analogy. Okay. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings or touch on any kind of nerves or hot spots or issues that are like too tender or too difficult to handle. I hope you can handle this reading. You're welcome to completely translate it into your own terms, however you want, that could work for you. Um, Tarot Illumination is not the ultimate. There's lots of other ways to read this if you wanted to. So help yourself. Thank you for visiting, Taurus. Please read for your sun and your moon and your rising, and this might make a little bit more sense. And don't get stressed out about this or this. Allow it to move through. Allow this energy to surface, okay? You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. It's part of a growing pain, so to speak, okay? So that you can be your ultimate self, which is what you're hoping and wishing for, and which is what you're going to get. All right. Bye, Taurus. I'm sorry I went on quite long there. Bye-bye.